Have you ever thought a case was finally over, only for everything to change in an instant? Imagine a man standing in court, admitting to one of the most shocking crimes in recent American history. The victims' families believe justice has finally been served. Then, months later, he claims he should never have pleaded guilty and asks for another chance to fight the case. That's exactly what happened in the Bryan Kohberger case. Before we begin, welcome to Crime Chronicle. If you enjoy detailed true crime stories based on facts, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell icon so you never miss an upload. Now, let's get into today's story. Moscow, Idaho, was known as a quiet college town where students felt safe walking home at night. Violent crime was rare, making it the last place anyone expected a tragedy like this. But during the early hours of November 13th, 2022, everything changed. Inside an off-campus home on King Road for University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernadle, and Ethan Chapin were fatally stabbed while they slept. The four were young, full of ambition, and looking forward to bright futures. Kaylee had recently graduated and was preparing to move to Texas for a new job. Madison was her lifelong best friend. Xana and Ethan were enjoying college life together as a couple. None of them knew that ordinary Saturday night would be their last. Two other roommates were inside the house and survived. One later told investigators she heard unusual sounds and, after opening her bedroom door, saw a man dressed in dark clothing with a mask covering much of his face walk past her before leaving through the back of the house. She stood frozen in shock. Hours later, a 911 call brought emergency responders to the home. What they found would become one of the most devastating crime scenes in Idaho's history. News spread quickly, leaving the entire community in fear. Parents rushed to bring their children home, students packed their belongings, and rumors flooded social media as people searched for answers. At first, investigators had no suspect and no publicly known motive. Behind the scenes, however, detectives were carefully examining every piece of evidence, reviewing surveillance footage, interviewing witnesses, and collecting forensic samples. One clue kept appearing: a white Hyundai Elantra captured on security cameras near the house during the early morning hours. That single clue would eventually lead investigators to a graduate criminology student living just across the state line. His name was Bryan Kohberger. And from that moment on, one of the biggest murder investigations in modern American history took a dramatic turn. At first, Bryan Kohberger didn't seem like the person many expected. He wasn't a career criminal or someone with a violent past that was known publicly. Instead, he was a PhD student in criminology at Washington State University in Pullman, Washington, less than 15 minutes from the King Road house. Ironically, he had dedicated years to studying criminal behavior, forensic science, and the psychology of offenders. As news of his arrest spread, people who had known him began sharing their experiences. Some described him as intelligent but socially reserved. Others recalled awkward encounters or said he often kept to himself. While those stories attracted attention, they were personal opinions, not proof of guilt. Investigators, however, weren't relying on opinions. They were following evidence. One of the most significant discoveries came from a knife sheath found at the crime scene. Although the murder weapon was never recovered, forensic testing revealed a small amount of DNA on the sheath's button snap. Detectives believed it belonged to the person who had carried the knife into the house. At the same time, analysts were reviewing surveillance footage collected from homes and businesses around Moscow. One vehicle stood out. A white Hyundai Elantra was seen driving through the neighborhood several times before the attacks. According to investigators, it returned again shortly after the killings before speeding away from the area. Detectives released a public request asking for help identifying the car. Thousands of tips came in. Among them was information that a graduate student at Washington State University owned a white Hyundai Elantra matching the description. That student was Bryan Kohberger. But owning a similar vehicle wasn't enough to make an arrest. Investigators continued digging. According to court documents, cell phone records suggested Kohberger's phone had been near the King Road neighborhood on multiple occasions before the murders. Prosecutors later argued this showed familiarity with the area. The defense disputed that interpretation, saying the data could not precisely place him at the crime scene. Then came another breakthrough. After Kohberger traveled to Pennsylvania for the holidays, investigators secretly collected discarded trash from outside his family's home. DNA recovered from that trash was compared with the DNA profile developed from the knife sheath. According to investigators, the results showed a strong biological connection between the person whose DNA was on the sheath and Kohberger's family line. With the forensic evidence, surveillance footage, vehicle information, and digital records combined, detectives believed they had enough to act. In the early morning hours of December 30th, 2022, a tactical team surrounded the family home in Pennsylvania. Kohberger was arrested without incident. The news stunned the country. For more than 6 weeks, people had wondered who was responsible. Now, investigators believed they had found their suspect. As the case moved through the courts, prosecutors revealed more of the evidence they planned to present. The surviving roommate's account, the DNA on the knife sheath, surveillance videos, and digital records became central to the prosecution's case. Still, one question remained unanswered.
Why?
Authorities never announced a confirmed motive. There was no public evidence proving that Kohberger personally knew the victims, and despite years of investigation, no official explanation has answered why these 4 students were targeted. That mystery continues to fuel discussion even today. As the trial approached, prosecutors announced they would seek the death penalty if Kohberger were convicted. Many expected one of the longest and most closely watched murder trials in recent history. But before the first witness ever took the stand, the case took a turn that no one saw coming. Both sides spent months preparing. Prosecutors were ready to present forensic evidence, surveillance footage, phone records, and witness testimony. The defense challenged parts of the investigation and questioned how some of the evidence had been interpreted. The trial was expected to last for months. Many believed it would finally answer the question everyone had been asking since the beginning.
Why?
Instead, the case took an unexpected turn. In July 2025, Bryan Kohberger appeared in court and pleaded guilty to the murders of Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernadle, and Ethan Chapin, along with a burglary charge. The plea agreement meant he would receive 4 consecutive life sentences, without the possibility of parole. In return, prosecutors agreed not to seek the death penalty. The decision shocked many people. Some believed accepting the plea spared the victims' families from years of appeals and an emotionally exhausting death penalty trial. Others felt disappointed because there would be no public trial where every piece of evidence would be presented. Perhaps the biggest disappointment was that the guilty plea didn't answer the question everyone wanted answered. Why did he do it? During the hearing, Kohberger admitted his guilt, but he did not explain his motive. For a while, it seemed the case had finally reached its end. Then, in 2026, another unexpected twist made headlines. Kohberger filed a petition asking the court to let him challenge his guilty plea. In the filing, he claimed he should not have pleaded guilty and argued that his legal representation had been ineffective. He also alleged that some evidence should have been investigated more thoroughly before he accepted the plea agreement. It's important to remember that these are claims made by Kohberger. The court has not ruled that those claims are true. Because he pleaded guilty, he also gave up most of his rights to appeal. That means overturning his convictions is legally very difficult. A new attorney has been appointed to represent him during the post-conviction process, but as of now, nothing has changed. His guilty plea still stands. His convictions remain in place. And he continues serving 4 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole while the court considers his petition. Even after all this time, one question still lingers. What was the motive? Some have suggested one of the victims may have been the intended target. Others believe the house itself was selected. There have even been theories that his academic interest in criminology somehow influenced his actions. But none of those theories have been proven in court. Until Bryan Kohberger chooses to explain his actions, or unless new evidence is made public, the real motive may remain unknown. And perhaps that's what makes this case so unsettling. The investigation identified a suspect. The forensic evidence led to an arrest. The suspect admitted guilt. Justice, in the eyes of the law, was carried out. Yet, one of the most important questions has never been answered. Why would someone with a promising academic future allegedly throw everything away and destroy the lives of 4 innocent students who appeared to have no connection to him? Was this carefully planned? Or was there something investigators have never been able to fully explain? Do you think the victims' families received enough closure without hearing a motive? And if someone pleads guilty in open court, should they later be allowed to withdraw that plea and start the legal process all over again? I'd really like to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please keep the discussion respectful because this case is about real people and families who continue to live with an unimaginable loss. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe to Crime Chronicle, and click the bell icon so you never miss another true crime story. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe.